Ever had that slightly weird feeling? You're looking for something online, maybe a new coffee maker,
Hmm.
and then suddenly, boom, every single site you go to is flashing ads for that exact coffee maker.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or walking downtown.
Right. Or, yeah, walking through town, cameras everywhere, and you get this nagging thought,
Yeah.
like, are they watching me? What happens with all that footage, all that data?
It's a really central question for, well, for all of us now, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're diving into today, this whole expanding world of surveillance, particularly how AI is changing the game and, what it means for our data.
And we've pulled together quite a bit of material for this deep dive. We've got historical stuff, analyses of the AI tech itself, policy papers, even studies on what we think about it all.
Yeah, trying to get that full picture. The goal isn't to like drown everyone in tech jargon. It's more about pulling out the key trends, understanding the ethical knots we're tied up in, and looking at potential solutions or safeguards, really trying to make sense of what matters and, the real world impact.
Okay, good. So let's maybe start with a bit of that history. I found it pretty striking that this idea of using infrastructure for surveillance.
Yeah.
It's not entirely new, especially with telecoms.
Yeah, what's fascinating looking back is this pattern. Existing infrastructure gets repurposed. So think back to the 1920s Prohibition era.
Yeah.
Law enforcement figured out, hey, tapping into the Bell System's phone exchanges, that's a goldmine for intelligence.
Uh,
Even if the phone company wasn't maybe thrilled about it, the network itself became this key surveillance tool. There's a real echo of that today with our digital networks carrying just so much data.
that is a strong parallel. It really makes you think about the underlying structures. Okay, so fast forward to now. AI has just completely transformed surveillance, hasn't it? It's way beyond just a camera on a pole.
Oh, absolutely. AI is being woven into, well, pretty much everything. These smart city platforms, safe city initiatives,
Hmm.
we're seeing them roll out globally. There's a report from the Carnegie Endowment saying at least 75 countries are using AI for surveillance now. Things like facial recognition, um, predictive or smart policing.
75. Yeah.
Yeah. And the stated goal is usually, enhancing security. But, and this is the crucial part, this quick rollout brings a whole raft of new ethical challenges and potential for misuse.
Okay, challenges like what specifically? What are the big red flags that immediately jump out?
Well, a major one is just the sheer amount and type of data being scooped up.
Mm-hmm.
It's biometric stuff, face scans, how we walk, where we go, what we do online. Some research even suggests AI trying to like infer emotions from faces now.
Infer emotions. Okay, that's unsettling.
It is. And the core issue is, while this collection is exploding, transparency is often lagging way behind. How is it processed? Who gets to see it? Is it being shared? We often just don't know.
It does feel like this invisible net just keeps getting wider. Now, there have been some pushes for transparency, haven't there? Like Apple's app privacy thing in the App Store. That seems like a step, maybe.
It is, yeah. It's a move in that direction. It makes developers spell out what data they collect and why, photos, location, contacts, whether it's linked to you, used for tracking.
Right.
But, and this is key, it's all self-reported by every developer, including Apple. So it's more info than before, sure, but you're relying on them being accurate and complete.
That's a really critical caveat. Okay, so who's actually providing this AI surveillance tech? Is it a fragmented market or just a few big players?
It's actually quite concentrated, the core tech. It's coming from a relatively small group of companies globally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Chinese companies like Huawei, Hikvision, Dahua, ZTE, they're major suppliers in something like 63 countries, according to that Carnegie report. Huawei is the biggest single one in at least 50 countries.
She's down.
But it's not just them. U.S. firms, IBM, Palantir, Cisco, they're in the mix too, along with companies from other democratic nations.
So it's definitely a global market. And I think I read something about how some companies help countries afford this tech.
Yes, exactly. The report mentions soft loans, particularly from some Chinese providers, basically making it easier financially for governments to buy their surveillance systems,
Hmm.
which, raises questions about why certain tech gets chosen. Is it purely based on merit, or are these financial deals, these loans, influencing the decision? The report points to places like Kenya, Laos, Uganda.
Interesting dynamic. So you've got this tech spreading, sometimes with these financial nudges, but then how do we feel about it? What's the public mood on all the surveillance?
Well, Pew Research Center data paints a pretty clear picture there. Huge majorities of adults say it's important to control who gets their info, that's 93%, and what info gets collected, 90%.
That high. Okay.
Yeah, and for many, it's very important. People definitely value that sense of control.
Makes sense. I think most of us want some privacy.
Hmm.
But do we trust the companies and platforms handling our data to respect that?
Oh, well, that's where you see a big gap.
Hmm.
Pew also found most adults don't have much confidence in online advertisers, social media sites, search engines, you name it, to keep their data private and safe.
Not surprising, Sally.
No, the prevailing feeling is not too confident or not at all confident.
Right. What about facial recognition? That's such a visible kind of flashpoint technology in this whole debate. How do people feel about that specifically?
There was a good eugenics study looking at exactly that. People brought up worries about accuracy, errors, potential bias,
Hmm.
and also privacy, naturally. Like, what data is being collected? What are they inferring from it? And there's this fear of the dragnet effect.
The dragnet effect.
Yeah.
Explain that a bit.
It's the idea that these systems, deployed widely, just capture everyone's data indiscriminately. Not just people suspected of something, but, well, everybody walking down the street.
Yeah, that's a powerful image.
Yeah.
So given those fears, what do people want, like control-wise, notification, consent?
Yeah, the eugenics study found about 30% felt strongly they needed both notification and active consent before their face data was grabbed.
Okay, active consent.
Yeah. But interestingly, people differed on how often they wanted that notification. Some wanted it every single time. Others worried about notification fatigue, just too many pop-ups, and preferred maybe less frequent reminders.
Huh. So no easy answer on how to implement that.
Not really. It shows there isn't just one way people want to interact with this. It's complex.
It really does underline the difficulty in balancing rights and technology here.
Oh.
Okay, we've covered the tech, the public view. What about the downsides? Like when these systems get it wrong or are used in ways they shouldn't be? Bias is a big one, right?
It's a massive concern, algorithmic bias. It can creep in through the data used to train these AI systems. If the data isn't representative or if it reflects historical inequalities, well, the AI learns those biases.
How does that play out in practice?
It could mean certain groups get flagged for surveillance much more often, maybe based on biased watch lists from the past. There's research, for example, citing potential bias against Muslims and Muslim Americans in some systems.
Right, and that's based on the training data.
Often, yes. Or flawed assumptions baked into the algorithm itself. And what's worrying is that AI might offer up seemingly non-discriminatory reasons for its decisions, making it really hard to legally challenge that profiling.
Kind of a black box justification.
Exactly. It obscures the real discriminatory basis. And we've seen real-world inaccuracies, too, like the UK's Metropolitan Police facial recognition tech. Reports showed a really high error rate in some trials.
High errors. That's not good.
No. And even Axon, a major police body camera company, had its own ethics board say facial recognition just isn't reliable enough yet for ethical use on their cameras.
Wow. So even the providers are acknowledging limitations. This also sounds like a legal minefield. Are our laws keeping up?
That's another major concern. Many experts feel privacy laws just haven't caught up with how fast AI tech is moving.
Yeah, I can see that.
Applying old legal frameworks like the Fourth Amendment in the U.S., which deals with searches and seizures, to AI surveillance, it's really challenging, especially when trying to tackle discriminatory AI.
How so?
Well, getting a court to stop discriminatory AI before harm happens is tough. And suing for damages after the fact has limitations too, particularly if it involves national security, because of some Supreme Court rulings.
So accountability is tricky. What about broader regulations, like in Europe? I know they've been working on AI rules.
Right. The EU AI Act, it's a significant piece of legislation, but interestingly, it generally excludes AI systems used purely for military defense or national security.
Oh, it excludes them.
For those specific uses, yes. But if those same systems are also used for, say, domestic law enforcement or other purposes, then the act can apply. It's nuanced.
Okay, so governments are grappling with this too then. What's happening on that front, say, in the U.S.?
Well, there was a White House memo recently, M2521, pushing federal agencies to adopt AI responsibly. It talks about removing barriers to innovation, but also increasing transparency.
Transparency again.
Yes, and requiring agencies to actually develop public AI strategies. The language is all about making AI work for the American people, ensuring it's trustworthy.
Control of the AI seems important.
Definitely. And they've set up a chief AI officer council to coordinate AI efforts across different government agencies.
So there's movement. But are there still concerns about government overreach?
Oh, absolutely. Groups like Freedom House, for instance, consistently raise alarms about disproportionate government surveillance and the lack of robust data privacy safeguards. They really emphasize applying human rights principles directly to AI and biometric surveillance.
A different perspective there. And it's not just governments, right? There's a whole commercial side to this too, data brokers and such.
Exactly. There's a huge commercial market for surveillance tools, and data brokers play a big role. Apple actually highlighted this in a report they did, mentioning things like the California Data Broker Registry, companies like Axiom.
And these brokers just gather and sell data.
Pretty much. They amass vast amounts of data from various sources, and it can be used for all sorts of purposes, often far removed from why it was originally collected. It all feeds into this massive data ecosystem.
Okay, so given all this, the tech, the bias, the gaps, the commercial interests, where do we go from here? What are the potential safeguards?
Well, transparency and meaningful consent keep coming up, right? People need to know what's being collected and have a real say in it. That Eugenics study really underscored that.
Makes sense. What else?
Yeah.
How do we tackle the bias issue?
Algorithmic auditing is seen as a key best practice, regularly checking algorithms for bias. Experts say bias can often be objectively measured and, hopefully, fixed.
Auditing the code, essentially.
And the data and the outcomes. It usually needs like a cross-functional team, tech people, ethicists, domain experts to do it properly.
Okay. And policy and regulation. We mentioned the EU AI Act.
Right. It takes this risk-based approach. Some AI uses, like real-time remote facial recognition by law enforcement in public spaces, with some exceptions, or AI in essential services are classed as high risk.
High risk, meaning more rules.
Exactly. They face mandatory requirements, things like strong data governance, transparency for users, ensuring human oversight is possible.
Human oversight feels crucial.
Very much so. Even for AI systems considered lower risk, like chatbots or systems using emotion recognition, there are transparency obligations letting people know they're interacting with AI or being analyzed in that way.
And what about the underlying AI models themselves?
The Act also includes rules for what they call general-purpose AI models, the foundational models behind many applications. Things like requiring technical documentation, summaries of the training data used, trying to get more visibility into how they're built.
So peeling back the layers a bit.
Yeah. And of course, work is ongoing elsewhere too, like developing specific AI governance frameworks for national security uses, as mentioned in that White House guidance. It's an evolving landscape.
Definitely feels like it. Is there anything we as individuals can practically do amidst all this? It feels a bit overwhelming.
It can feel that way. The National Cybersecurity Alliance suggests a few things. First, understand what you can't easily control, like public cameras. Then focus on what you can, cultivating good data privacy habits online, carefully checking app permissions before you grant them.
So focusing on your own digital footprint where possible.
Exactly. Being mindful of the permissions you give apps on your phone, reviewing privacy settings on platforms you use. Small steps, but they contribute to your overall digital hygiene.
Right. Okay, so wrapping this up then. What are the big takeaways from this deep dive?
I think fundamentally it's that AI is rapidly accelerating surveillance capabilities everywhere.
Yeah, that's clear.
But this brings huge privacy and ethical challenges, especially around bias, lack of transparency, and frankly, the potential for misuse.
And we're seeing efforts to catch up, right? Regulations like the EU AI Act, government initiatives, calls for auditing.
Yes, there are definitely efforts underway to build safeguards and establish rules of the road. But the technology often outpaces the policy. It's a constant tension.
It really is.
Yeah.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is, as this AI-powered surveillance becomes more and more woven into the fabric of our lives, how do we strike that balance?
Exactly. How do we ensure security doesn't completely erode our fundamental rights and freedoms? What questions should you be asking about the technologies observing you, collecting your data, maybe even making decisions about you?
A lot to think about there. Definitely something to keep watching closely.
Absolutely. It's not going away.